Is the red bulb on? Okay, there we are. All right.
Nobody's gonna come to you with a silver platter of kedusha and tell you what they said.
Guys.
Is that a remote control?
So we said, just to go over here, Hilchos Halacha Daled. The principle is that every person needs to say that the world was created for me, and every person needs to know. Every person needs to know that. Well, the zoom is on top. It moves on top. No. It goes back this and that way. We got Steven Spielberg here.
Everyone needs to know that the zoom is on top.
Yeah, everybody knows the zoom is on top. You should know what the zoom is. Otherwise, you think the zoom is on the bottom. What are you going to do then, huh? Then you really be in trouble. Okay. Okay, I won't pick my nose. Which nose are you talking about? Oh, okay. I'm sorry. All right. Anyhow, be that as it may, this is just the very beginning of we're sort of like going to develop and hopefully get this straightened out sooner or later. Every person needs to say, if the world was created for me, how do you know that before Gzadin and after Gzadin, when you know before there's a Verg in the world, after there's a Verg in the world? The answer is, when you do the mitzvahs in total simcha, and you enter into the simcha of the mitzvah itself, the simcha of the mitzvah itself is simcha of Kodesh Baruch Hu. So when you're doing the mitzvah, when you only want the mitzvah itself, you don't even want any schar for it. You don't even own halacha for it. You just want the mitzvah itself, the schar for the mitzvah that you have done. You want Kodesh Baruch Hu to give you another mitzvah. Well, that's all you want. You are entering into this limitless simcha, which is the simcha of Kodesh Baruch Hu himself. And as you become sensitized to this inyan of the simcha, you learn to discern when there is a lack of simcha and where there's a lack of simcha. Then you know when there's a lack of, when you cannot perform the mitzvahs that have to do with the head, with proper simcha. Then you know that there's a gzaldin, there's a verdict on the heads of Olam Shaman and Nefesh, either the leaders or whatever, and so forth and so on. And this is the way to do this, to be able to feel this simcha, is you need to purify your heart and you need to purify your mind. What happens is that the way the mechanism works is that from the source of gvuros, of might, comes a sound. The sounds hit the brain. It hits the brain, it produces a thunder. The thunder then surprises the heart and jars it out of being busy with the shtusim of this world. Like, when something is like there's you can see when there's a thunder, people are busy into their own things, whatever this thunder is, and everybody's like, whoa, kind of like, they're shocked out of their reality. And this is also, we said it yesterday, that somebody in the family becomes very sick. So suddenly all the little feuds, I'm angry at him, I'll never talk to him, I'll never talk to her, and she's never talked to this, and so everything flies out the window. You know what I'm saying? All of a sudden it becomes, you see it for the puny little nothing that it really is. Because there's a thunder that comes and straightens out the heart. It just draws it out of its petty little.
And this is the Gevura.
No, the Gvura
Yeah.
produces the sound. The sound hits the mind. And the mind produces this thunder, the clapping of the sound inside the head, inside the produces the sound that straightens out the heart. It cleans the heart. It makes the heart susceptible. That's as we said, that when a person is snapped out of his reality, for a short while he's open to suggestion. That people can suggest things to him, and it goes straight in. It doesn't go through the barriers, through the filters, the usual filters of the mind. His prejudices, whatever, it just goes straight in, because like he's defenseless, kaviyachol. But also defenseless is also means that he's clear, he's clean, and the path for the seichel amit to go, and then the heart can feel the simcha mitzvahs. Now, when the way to clean the heart is as we said, is through this thunder. Now, but the mind also has to be a mesugaldika instrument, an auspicious instrument to produce that sound that straightens out the heart. And the way you do this is by clearing the brain from chochmas chitzenius, from extraneous wisdoms, disciplines, and thinking of taivas, because what they do is they stuff up the brain. Instead of becoming, the speed of light in vacuum is, and between if you fill it out with whatever, just like with a dense matter or whatever it is, it just doesn't go through. Same thing with sound, right? The sound doesn't go through unless if it's filled with cotton wool, the sound won't go through. Has to be empty, has to be so it can reverberate. This is dafka that so say, and the way when a person puts in chokhmah zara, a foreign chokhmah, into his mind, it reduces the space of kedusha. It becomes like a tumor in the mind.
Because the mind is only certain.
Yeah, there's a certain thing. It puts like a tumor in the mind, and it grows upon it. So and the Rebbe says that there's also one more thing that you need to do in the primary stage. The actual sound comes from gvuras, that sound that hits the mind that afterwards clears the heart. The very source of it all is the yira. A person should be careful not to fear anything like Kodesh Baruch Hu himself. And this is done when a person judges himself by himself. Before the Din Lamata and Din Lamala.
This is how you clean the mind of.
No, this is how you clear the source of the sound. Because the mind you clean by staying away from consciousness and from fantasies.
What if you already took in some chokhmah yitzonius? How do you get rid of it?
I don't know. It says you have to clear the mind. That's what it says. You have to clear the mind from chokhmas chitzonius. Now, chokhmas chitzonius, I don't. Again, you can take what I'm saying now with a grain of salt, but from what I understand, is that let's say that you learned a certain profession, okay? It's not called chokhmas chitzonius. I mean, that's your profession. That's your profession. That's your tool, so to speak. And so.
Unless you're a professor of philosophy.
Okay, well then you're in trouble. Then you are in trouble.
To immerse yourself in Torah.
No, but
is to cleanse the mind.
Of course, to immerse yourself in Torah, that's the thing that cleans the mind. But what I'm saying is, that person is already, his profession. He's a lawyer. What can you do?
To a certain point, when you're attached to the tzaddik, also those things don't affect you as much.
Rabbeinu says so first when you come to Rosh Hashanah for the tzaddik, and which is an issue that we are all dealing with at this point in time, you come to the tzaddik in Rosh Hashanah to be zocher to taras hamachshava, the purity of the thought of the mind. So that's the tzaddik, cleans the mind. But the tzaddik, there's a process of how the tzaddik cleans the mind. He doesn't just, take off all the schmutz from the mind. But what he does, he takes it slowly, little by little. He says, because the Rebbe says, because if you take all the schmutz at once, you can take part of the brain also, because the schmutz and the brain are intermingled, they're mixed up together. So he says the Rebbe gives a mashal of when you're boiling water, just before the water clears up, the water clouds up, just before it boils. All the dirt comes, all the impurities come to the top. So he says, well, there has to be somebody that needs to skim the surface. The pool boy. The pool boy is to skim the surface. I mean, the tzaddik skims the surface little by little and cleans. As your life boils, as your life is bubbling, it lifts up the schmutz up, and the tzaddik skims the surface. There's
Mashkes again.
yeah. So he says, and you have to clear your source of yira. When you feel yira from something in the world, you bring it over to Kodesh Baruch Hu. You remind yourself that this is actually the Kodesh Baruch Hu that you're scared of. But because Nebuch, we are the way we are, and as imperfect as we are, we are afraid of extraneous things. The tachlis from this whole thing is that you remember that this is a fallen year. This thing that I'm afraid of this, afraid of that, is actually my fear from HaKadosh Baruch Hu that has fallen into this thing. And when you remind yourself of that, you're mekasher this year to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And again, these are all skills that in the beginning it feels very, very artificial. But I was afraid of this. What do you mean? I was afraid of this. Yeah, but you remind yourself that this is really HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and it happens again. It's not just, when something you're really scared of something. Anything that you're afraid of. I'm afraid I won't be able to make the rent. You are really afraid of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Connecting to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the more you do it, the more skillful you become.
What about personal fears?
Same thing.
Same fear of failure.
Same thing.
How is that a fear of HaKadosh Baruch Hu?
You don't need to understand that. There is no other fear except from Hashem. When you are afraid of something else, that means that because you got entangled in this web of so we made the fear, sort of manifest itself and dwindled down until it came into this. But there's no such thing as fear except the fear of Hashem. There's no such thing as love except the love of Hashem. Everything it's a borrowed thing, that it resides right now there. So when you feel that, and you remind yourself of the fear of Hashem, as I said, in the beginning, it will feel artificial. But as you go along, and each and every one you connect to Kodesh Baruch Hu, talk to him. He says, I know I'm afraid of you. I don't know how, don't understand, but I've connected this to you. I mean to be afraid of you.
It seems like in this world, in the world that we live in, the world of Asiya, it's something that has filtered out into something we can relate to. But what you're saying seems to be like a higher concept.
Right.
It is.
When you meet somebody who's not afraid of anything, except for Hashem, they do, and they operate in this world on a different level, right? They go into battle. It doesn't make a difference if the bombs are flying, if there's an effect in the world. Because the only thing they're afraid of is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants them, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will take them. If Hashem doesn't want them, then they're going to do what they need to do. And therefore they go into battle, and they go, and doesn't matter if the bombs are flying. Because they're not afraid of it.
It's all in the mind. It's all in the mind. In truth, you already live on a different plane than the rest of the world. Because you talk to Hashem. It may seem to you like, it's a huge difference. You're already in a different plane than the rest of the world. If you can recall what it means to live without HaKadosh Baruch Hu, totally vulnerable to everything and anything that moves, Because anything can happen, right? Everything is arbitrary. Everything is like, you're in a different place now. So Beseder, it's not a different place of somebody who was above you, but it's a hugely different place than from where you were before, with people that are not there. Yes, sir.
When you're talking about fear,
Am I allowed to
manifesting,
sniff, by the way?
when you're talking about fear,
Yes.
manifesting itself like a person is afraid of doing something because he's afraid of Kodesh Baruch Hu,
Yeah.
that's different than you're a Shemayim. Like when you're saying Yiro,
Actually, no.
It's the
Actually,
same
no.
thing.
It's exact same
One of
thing.
them-
no, but your
straight
person's
to the
lacking
Hashem.
Yiro Shemayim.
Because his
That's right. So-
It's low. So I'm afraid of other things. You're going to be afraid.
That's crossing.
You're going to be afraid. No matter what, you're going to be afraid. The
Correct.
question is for what? From what?
Right.
This is your choice. You're going to love. The question is what? It's only you and the Kodesh Baruch Hu.
When you're afraid of fewer and fewer things, that
Because
reflects
you've
that
uplifted
your
them.
level of you and
And you
Hashem
have
has gone higher.
Now, the way to extricate yourself from these kind of fears is, as we learned in the previous Torah, that in Torah as well, you judge yourself. You judge yourself over here if you're actually behaving properly or not, and that gets away, refrains from the fears from descending. Can you just close the door? From descending down into
This world.
this world, to be mislabish, to shroud, get cloaked into this worldly things, and
If you arouse yourself from below, you don't need from above. You don't need to be waking up.
Aroused from above.
yeah, that's right.
It's the litmus test for your Shemayim of where you're holding is what it is that you're afraid of. If you're afraid of the spider that's crawling on the floor, then one's your Shemayim is relatively low because you shouldn't be afraid of that. But so I'm saying that the less things that you're afraid of and the more that you're only afraid of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that's the reflection of where you're holding. And to the extent that you're afraid of little things, or maybe not so little things to yourself, then this process of cleaning out helps one restore one's level of Yerushalayim to an appropriate level.
So let's just summarize. The idea is Iu bezkifu, anu b'shipuli. Kodesh Baruch Hu yismach Hashem b'maasav. The Yisrael Kodesh Baruch Hu is in his maisim, in his mitzvahs, in the world. Yismach Yisrael b'oisav. So that the simcha of Israel is in the Kodesh Baruch Hu himself. In other words, that is a joint simcha. When you are joining the simcha of Kodesh Baruch Hu, you can tell it's before Gzar Din, it's after Gzar Din, and how to daven, for what to daven, and even if it's after Gzar Din, you know that you have to cloak what you're asking for in a Maisa, because you can't already go against the judgment system, being that the verdict was already there. But the president can pardon. All kind of different things that you can do, but you can't do straight away. And you have to recognize where things are holding. So he says, as we said, there are those mechanisms that you need to prepare yourself to be able to rejoice in the Simcha Kodesh Baruch Hu himself. Okay? And that's through the Yira produces sound with Tefillah B'Koyach. The Tefillah B'Koyach produces your own private thunders. You don't have to wait for an explosion. You don't have to wait for Chas v'Chalila, an imglik in the family or anything. That by davening B'Kol, that sound hits the mind. The mind needs to be clean. We spoke about it, and then then you hear it in your heart. When you hear it in your heart, obviously the heart has to be cleaned. The thunder is like straighten out the heart, takes it out of its petty shtissim that it's busy with. He told me this, and he was then. It gets it out. The heart becomes a keli that can feel the simcha. V'lishkelev simcha. Then you do the ma'aseh, when you do the mitzvahs just for the mitzvahs themselves, not even for any schar. You are entering, when the heart is capable of it, is auspicious for that, the actual simcha of Kodesh Baruch Hu, and then you can tell, it's before Gzar Din or after Gzar Din. And he says like this, Siman Beis, Ki Tefillin B'chinas Ramin, the Tefillin is thunder. B'chinas Tikkun HaMoichin, that's the rectification of the mentalities. So this is the thing that straightens out the crookedness of the heart. This is the thing that grants you that simcha, as we said. And there's a special simcha. We found that Chazal are mentioning this, the tefillin has a special simcha. כמו שאמרו Chazal, in Masechet Brochos, Rabbo was going around happy all day long. He was going with a smile from ear to ear. I told him what was going on, what happened. He says, I'm a tefillin kamanachna. I put on tefillin. And this is one of the important things that I have learned from Reb Simcha Bar Lev, that he told me, that when you begin Avodas Hashem, and it's before you're sensitized, I'm giving it with Rashi Tosfos on what he said. When you begin Avodas Hashem, before you get sensitized to the gentle melody of the Kedusha, you need to be, tickled with a rake to fill anything, because it's such a crust, so you need these fantastic avodas with chatzois, with this and with that, and to feel like, wow, just to feel anything. He told me about tzaddikim, they have the highest, with film, with tzitzis, and I know a big deal. Everybody does that,
With the mitzvah itself.
Yeah, but he said,
That's the simcha.
but the point is that you sensitize yourself. So at that point you're starting to feel, you hear the gentle, the almost beyond human frequency, so to speak. You start feeling the joy which is in the mitzvah itself. The simcha of tefillin is, as Rabbi says, he was happy all day long. I put on tefillin today. He felt the actual simcha of tefillin. Tefillin b'chinas simcha, because the tefillin is a manifestation of simcha itself. Valken and keneged alev. That's the reason why I put the simcha mamash next to the heart. Put me like a seal upon your arm, in order to straighten out the crookedness in the heart. This is in order to be zocher to that simcha that we spoke about. In other words, we're putting the tefillin on the arm and putting the tefillin on the head. We said that in order to feel the simcha of the mitzvahs, we have to purify the heart, we have to straighten out the heart, and we purify it by, cleaning out the head, right? This is where the thunder exploded. Tefillin themselves are a manifestation of thunder. As it says, when that sound comes out, and it gets stuck and it hits the rain clouds, then the sound is heard outside. This is what thunders are. Because we said we already said it quite a few times before. How do you actually prepare the revelation of the Nikuda of Tefillin? Learning Torah at night is the thing that brings this light of the Nikuda. We used to call it, the Nikuda Sahava, the light of the Tefillin is prepared by the Torah that you learn at night. You wake up in Chatzois Laila, and you learn Torah. And the waking of Chatzois is an act of might. The B'chinas Ramim, B'chinas Kol Shoifel, B'chinas Ram Gvuros of Mizboinon. We said, if you remember, that what is the in of Chatzois? Yes, we said we called it Tefillah B'chinat Din, and we said what is the thing that how do we know that when it's Chatzois Laila? We said that there's a flame kiviyachol that comes out of Gvuros.
Burns the rooster, no?
Yes, and it hits the wings of the rooster, kiviyachol. What is the rooster called? It's called gever, right? It's called, mishum gvuros. So there is what you would call a situation in reality in which the fire of the ultimate gvuros hit the lower battery, quote unquote, which is called gever. When it comes down to gashmus in this world, the rooster wakes up. He doesn't know where he wake up. But Beruchnius, the Esh is Kivyochel, of the Gvuras, hits it. This is the flame of fire that hits the wings of the rooster. Then it gets up and it calls out, and this is in Chatzos. Who gave the rooster comprehension? Nimtza shekol haternegel, the sound of the ternegel, that this is the thing that wakes you up chatzos. Ubchinas kol. He says, the gvuros hit its wings, and what does it do? It produces kol, right? Ubchinas kol ha'etzem gvuros. This is the sound that comes out of gvuros. That fire, which is the original yira, the original gvuros, hitting the gever, which is the instrument to produce the call, and it calls out. It produces, that's the thunder. You see that Ram Gvuros of Mi is Boinon. Mi is the name of Bina.
Bina. So it's gematria
50. It's gematria 50. It's 50 gates of Bina. So he says that Bina is the thing that gives you the comprehension to understand the Kadosh Baruch Hu in this world. It says that Mi ke Elokeinu. The Bina is a reflection of Elokeinu. It's Mi ka Adoneinu. Right? Mi ke Moshienu. The Bina is the thing that enables you to perceive Kadosh Baruch Hu as your king, Kadosh Baruch Hu as your Mashiach, Kadosh Baruch Hu as your father, Kadosh Baruch Hu as your melech. Because it says the Mi is this mirror that reflects the. Now you have underneath you have the Malchus, you have the Zois. Mi in Zos Oilo, that there's an interrelationship between the Mi and the Zois, the Bina and the Malchus. That's the mother and daughter. That's right. So that's what he says. Ani Bina Bina says, "Veram Gvuroisov," the thunder of his Gvuros. Mi is Boinon. It comes out of in of Mi. This is the Mi is the thing that sees. So, and the same thing is that Mi knows who is given to the Sefer Bina. Mi is given to the Sefer Bina because the Shoresh of Gvuros is in the Bina. We said Milchatchila the in the level of Chochmah you have the source. B'chnas Nekuda, which is Koyach Ma. But it's totally undifferentiated. This is the level of concept, the level of axiom, of the initial supposition. Okay? In the Bina, you have, quote unquote, the logical system with which you take this raw Chochmah and you decipher it and you make sense of it. We gave this mashal about music, that the notes of music is the Chochmah. The musical theory is the Bina. When you manipulate the notes, the Chochmah, with the Bina, it produces the Das, it produces the song, it produces the music, it produces the symphony or whatever. Because Das is applied logic, Kivyochel, in this sense. So we said that in order to be able to process this raw material, Kivyochel, that comes from, which is the Chochmah, you have to have this mechanism of allowing
Understanding.
the energy, saying that, the mechanism of understanding, like any mechanism in the world, is made of sort of like capacitors and gears, meaning you have energy that goes forward, and you have a koyach that holds it back and manipulates it. This relation between the pushing and the holding back is the thing that enables all creative processes to come about. You have a car, all right? So you produce the raw energy by the engine, right? There's an explosion, there's inside the cylinder, boom, all right? Now you have a whole system that allows the energy to expand one way and then converts it into rotary movement, right? And which was mentioned, and brings it down to the wheels. You're basically taking an energy that goes forward,
like resistance. Resistance.
You're right. It's Rabbeinu Nosson speaks about it. It's also at great length. This is in the watch. It says koach machriach. The force that forces it ahead, and koach me'akev, and the restraining force, and the relationship between the push and the restraint is the thing that ultimately, when you control the process, that's the thing that produces the ultimate result. So you see, so the Bina has to have, per definition, the ability to allow things to go through, because otherwise nothing happens, right? So that's the chasadim. And it has to have the ability to hold back, the restraining force. These are the gvuras. So the Bina as a tool for actualization of the Chokhmah needs to be able to have Chasadim and Gvurais. Yad Yamin and Yad Small. Okay, Yad Yamin and Yad Small. The 5 fingers of Yad Yamin is the 5 Chasadim, and the 5 fingers of Yad Small is the 5 Gvurais. The same thing happens in your sound. The voice is being produced beyond the Malchus. That's why in the throat itself there are the 6 rings of the Kana. Then it comes to the Malchus, which is the door of the Bina. It's a small Bina. It's mini Bina. All right, that's the Malchus. It has 5 motzas apeh, right? It has these 5 tools of holding back the sound and therefore manipulating it, which is the throat, that's the tongue, that's the teeth, that's the roof of the mouth, that's the lips. So these are all tools of holding back in a special kind of way that enables to take the raw sound that comes out of the lungs, that comes out of and manipulate it into words.
You said yesterday that anything that has to do with Rashi Teva, Safei Teva
is remez.
It's remez. No. When you say something like, seems like Pashut, right? It says Ram Gvurotav Mi Yitbonen. Like you wouldn't normally understand it that way. What is that? What level is that? It's also remez.
I don't know. It's a good question. I don't know. The entire Likutei Maharal, mind you, is remez. I mean, remez is such a remez, and there's all kinds of different. But the kiviochel, the pshat of Likutei Maharal is kiviochel in the level of remez. But it's the sod as it comes out through the remez. ועל ידי זה קמים בחצות לילה ועוסקים בתורה. וזה כנופק, היי קלה, when this sound comes out, ve'aro be'avimito, and it hits the rain cloud, Shema Moichin. It hits the Moichin, it hits the mentalities. Ki az b'chatzos, because then, at midnight, azai u'iker tikar l'moyach. That's the main time when the moyach gets rectified. Kamu v'sha'az, iker azman ha'mesugel la'asik sador z'atera. Chatzos Laila is the most auspicious time to attain Sodas HaTorah. This constitutes the same principle at play in the sound of shofar. Ki shofar represents the awakening from sleep. He says, what is the shofar comes to wake us up? There's a whole union of what happens that during Rosh Hashanah, that the Zai is asleep, and Kiyos Shofar it goes directly from the Malchus all the way up to Bina. I don't know what the heck it is, but that's what they say. That the message goes directly in Rosh Hashanah from the Malchus all the way up to the Bina without going through the Zeranpin, and which is usually the buffer in between. And then it wakes up. The Zeranpin is called Shnasa Dormita, and the Inaf Shofar, the Kol Shofar, wakes up the sleeping Zah, whatever it means. Okay, so he says that the Inaf Kol Shofar is things that wakes people up, because we also said that the sound of thunder, or the sound of any thunderous happening, is mesugel to wake people up from sleeping their lives. Our problem is that we're busy with the distractions and the how to and the why to and the this, and we basically take this treasure and we break it down to pennies, and we're busy with the pennies. I mean, if you take $1 million in pennies, you will never finish counting it. You're busy with shtissim. Not you, I mean all of us. And suddenly comes a boom and takes you out of that. Suddenly you, as we said before, you're open to something much higher. You're open to the tachlis. You're open to, to receive a message from above, so to speak. What's the tachlis of life? What is life all about? Yeah, but he insulted me, and I didn't get the aliyah that I wanted to. Ad kedei kach, people can be so thick. I used to know a guy, in very dear man in America, was a Holocaust survivor. A happy guy. Every day by him was a gift. It was literally a gift. And he told me that he originally from Hungary, and he said that he lived in a town was right next to the Polish border. It was like a couple of kilometers away. He said above the border they were taking the Eden already to the concentration camps. And he says that on outside the border we're still arguing about Aliyah, who's going to get Shlishi, who's going to get Shishi. Less than a mile away. Wake up. There's enough thunder, just wakes you up. So we're saying that this Kol Shofar is that. Kol Shofar is a sound, it's a wake-up call. But we're so asleep that we hear this really, hoarse rooster. And then, it doesn't really come out, and then you laugh. You snicker a little bit, whatever. That's what the Kol Shofar comes.
5 more minutes, mommy.
Yeah, because we're so thick. This is what we said, and I think it's kedai to say it again because we're, hello, Hollywood, because of that we said that the Tkiyas Shofar confuses the Satan because he thinks that's the Shofar of Mashiach. And I said, for years I thought it was like the funniest thing in the world. I know it's not the Shofar of Mashiach. What, he doesn't know? Come on, who are you kidding? He says, no, because he's a lot smarter than I am. Because he knows that one day it's going to be the Shofar Mashiach, and it can be that. We don't realize that today could be Chas v'Chalila, the last day. Today. Because as long as the candle is burning, you can rectify it. But the point is, it is possible. That's what they said. It says, a person should always do tshuva one day before he passes away. So this says, how does a person know when he's going to pass away? They said, that's right, he does do tshuva every day. So I remember, so Nosson Lieberman once said, why does it say, if a person doesn't know when he's going to pass away, why does it say Shuv yom echad lifnei misoscho. Do tshuva one day before you pass away. Do tshuva the day you pass away. You don't know. I didn't know it's going to be tomorrow. Maybe it's going to be the same day. Why dafka tomorrow? He says, the answer was that at the day of passing, there's no time for anything. Not to eat, not family, not anything. A day before, you still need to pay attention to your family, but for one day. You have to worry about parnasa, but for one day. You have to eat, but just for one day. Yeah, but we're planning, for retirement, and for this, and for that, and for this. The shofar comes out and says, yo, Shuv Yom Echad. The Satan is smart because he knows it could be. How does he know it's not that? One of those times it is going to be that because he is smart. Because he is open to reality. That's why he's confused by that. It's us who's going around stoned. This it's like, because we're stupid, that's we're sick.
Sick. Rabbi Glazerson says the word etzev, which is sadness, right, depression, is tzaddik is in the middle. That's the or of the tzaddik. What's on the outside of it? Av, it's thick. There's a thickness that's blocking you from the light of the tzaddik. Mela.
Right.
Your etzev.
It's black.
Black, yeah.
It's black. 5 more minutes, and with the so this is the kol shoifosh that is also waking up from the sleep. It's an alarm clock. That's the sound of thunder. This is the kol of the shofar that comes out from Shosha Gvurus in the Bina. As I nofikai kail v'abavamitra, and then the sound comes out and hits the clouds of rain, the rain clouds. Because when you wake up, the mind is clear. And then you learn Torah. You're not busy with this world and all the shtis and then everything is clean. You're Oisek then in building Mesa Mikdash. He says, that this is when Kol HaMis'abel Yerushalayim Zoicher Los B'Simcha, so whoever mourns for Yerushalayim is Zoicher to see the Simcha of Yerushalayim. This is the time for the purification of the mind, which is what we called euphemistically the rain clouds. The rain clouds is a representation of Gan Eden. It says, and from the clouds I forbid, amen, and I forbid the clouds from raining precipitation on him. What Rashi says, I have chased them away from Gan Eden. Nimtza sheikab avimitra em began Eden. The true avimitra, the true moichin exists in Gan Eden. Kisham ikra tikun moichin. This is the main rectification of the moichin. Now we're talking about. Okay, we're going higher still. All right. The shoresh ad moichin themselves come from a level which is beyond cognition. That source is called Eden. There is no perception in Eden, the very same way that there's no perception in the root of your intellect itself. You don't feel your intellect. You're using it.
No, I have seen it.
No, you using it, but there's no cognition. You're not aware of it because you're seeing out of it, so to speak. You can't see your eyes because you see with your eyes. You can't understand your seichel because you're understanding with your seichel. So this in of seichel itself, beyond the actual machshavas that you think, or whatever it is that you are aware of, is the seichel in action.
But there's a source from which the seichel derives its own ability to function.
So this is called Pchinas Eden. There's a river that comes from, there's a flow that comes from Eden. And the place where the actual thought are happening, this ganze chasana is happening on inside between your ears, is called Gan Eden. Okay? The flow has to come from Eden, it's a mashket agan, and it waters down the garden. ונע יוצא מעדן, וכשאוים בחצויס, and when you're getting up חצויס, אז זה נחשב כאילו יושב בגן עדן, it's as if you're actually sitting in גן עדן. כי זורך לסחב נשמס הצדיקים שבגן עדן, you actually become, you adhere to the נשמס הצדיקים that are sitting in גן עדן. כמובן בזוהר, it is said in the זוהר, שאז נוחיס קודשה בריחו להשתעשע עם צדיקיה בקינתא דעדן.
Because that's the time when it flows?
Yeah, that's the time that you are in the Pchinas Gan Eden. You are Pchinas Eden, in Gan Eden, with the tzaddik when the Kodesh Baruch Hu comes down to be with you.
That's when the waters turn down.
Okay, ומי שאוימד אז ועסק בתורה, anybody who wakes up at that time and learns Torah then, מסחבר עם האויס הנשמות, he connects to these נשמות שבגן עדן, כמו שכוסה שם בזוהר, ואז זויכה לבחינס אבי מיתרו, then you are זויכה to these rain clouds. Kasmoichen is the mentalities שמאירים בגן עדן, they shine in גן עדן, דייקה דווקא in גן עדן, מבחינת ועלבים מצב, and I will order the clouds. אני אומר, האדם הראשון נסגוש מגן עדן when he was chased away from גן עדן. Up to here for today.
Is the,
Rest it, no,